Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of From the Collection. My name is Becca, and I'm the Program and Outreach Coordinator here at the Chapman Museum.
And my name is Maureen, and I'm the curator.
And today we are joined by the official mascot of the Chapman Museum, Zopher the Mouse.
Hi everyone! It's good to be back for another episode!
How was your 4th of July, Zopher?
Oh, we had a great time! Catherine and I served cheese sandwiches. Colvin the squirrel and George the chipmunk brought nuts. And the Seneca chickadee brought some berries. We had a feast. Then, just as it was getting dark, Glenn and Warren woke up and came out to see us. And we all watched the fireworks. They say hi, by the way.
Sounds like a great party, Zopher, and hi to Glenn and Warren. We hope to see them again soon.
So what kind of objects are we looking at for today? More stuff on the American Revolution? Oh, or maybe we got objects from the Victoria. Oh, I love that episode. Or when we looked at the campaign button from Charles Evans Hughes. And, you know, I would really love to learn more about World War II. Maybe you can share an object from that era.
Whoa, slow down, Zopher. Those are some great ideas, but today's objects are from the 1980s.
The 1980s? I'll be right back, Becca. I've got the perfect outfit for this episode.
Another outfit, Zopher? You are getting quite the costume collection. Soon you won't have any room in your mouse hole. And don't you think about using the closet in my office. All right, well, while Zopher's changing, Maureen, do you want to talk a little bit about the collection here at the museum?
Sure, I'd love to. So the Chapman has lots of objects from the past, and we store these objects in our archive and collection spaces. Many of these items are primary sources. A primary source is an object used or created by someone in the past. Those could be letters, photographs, artifacts, clothing, speeches, and more. So we're going to be sharing 2 objects from our collection with you today, both of which are primary sources. For both of these objects, we're going to talk about the time period that they come from, what they were used for, and some other interesting facts. We'll also provide some historical context, which is like background information.
For those of you watching, you'll want to use the historical context we give you, as well as your observational skills and prior knowledge to try and guess what each object is or what it was used for.
So, what do you think? Michael Jackson was very popular in the 1980s. He wore a similar outfit. And in a famous music video, the song Thriller, which came out in 1982.
Wow, Zopher, very cool costume. Can you moonwalk like Michael Jackson too?
Of course I can. Watch this. Hit it.
Wow, great dancing, Zopher. I think you're ready for a 1980s themed episode. So as we said, both of today's objects are from the 1980s, which was about 45 years ago. That means you might know someone who was alive at that time. That isn't always true for many of the objects we share. But before we look at any objects, take a minute to think about what you know or what comes to mind when you think of the 1980s. It can be movies, songs, fashion, events, or more. If you'd like, write down your thoughts, and if you need more time, you can pause the video here. Zopher already mentioned Michael Jackson, and we'll talk about some of the other pop culture icons of the era, but first let's talk about what the country looked like during the 1980s. So during the 1980s, America was involved in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. Today, this is the country of Russia.
Cold War? Was it always winter there or something?
Good guess, Zopher, but no, a Cold War is a war that never heats up. This means that the United States and the Soviet Union never actually fought each other directly the way we fought the Axis powers during World War II or the Confederacy during the American Civil War.
Well, why didn't we like Russia? Ew, the Soviet Union. I thought the United States and the Soviet Union were allies during World War II.
You're right, Zopher. The United States and the Soviet Union were allies during World War II. But after the war ended, things changed. At the end of World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union were the two most powerful countries in the world. However, they had very different views about how countries should be run, and neither country wanted the other to become too powerful. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union competed in an arms race. Each country tried to build more and better weapons and bombs than the other. They also competed in the space race. Each country wanted to prove that it had the best scientists and technology by being the first to complete important missions in space. In the 1980s, the President of the United States was Ronald Reagan. Reagan was a Republican and held conservative views. Conservative views tend to focus on more traditional ideas. Reagan believed that the federal government should not be too involved in people's everyday lives. He also believed the government should spend less money and make fewer rules for businesses. Reagan also believed that the United States needed to take a tough stand against the Soviet Union. He wanted to strengthen the U.S. military, so he encouraged Congress to spend money on new technology. This helped the military develop better planes and other equipment. New technology also made its way into people's homes. Personal computers, video game consoles, and cell phones became more common.
What are those things? They can't be what you just described.
Well, the images you see on the screen show computers, cell phones, and video games that were popular in the 1980s. They look very large and clunky compared to the technology we use today, but without these early versions, we wouldn't have the technology we have today. The 1980s also saw the invention of the VCR, or video cassette recorder. A VCR allowed people to watch movies at home on their TVs instead of going to the movie theater. Today, DVD players and streaming services do a similar job. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the 1980s pop culture. Now, Zopher, you already mentioned Michael Jackson, but other popular musical artists from the 1980s included Madonna and Prince, as well as bands like Duran Duran. Many of these artists made music videos that were shown on a popular TV channel called MTV, which stood for Music Television. And with that, it's time to look at our first object.
Okay, so as you're looking at our first object, I want you to start to think about what you notice. Think about the object's size, the shape, the colors, the materials that it might be made of. And once you've made some observations, see if you can determine what this object is or what it might have been used for. If you'd like, pause the video and write down your thoughts. All right, Zopher, what do you notice?
Well, I definitely think this object is a hat because it has a brim, kind of like a baseball cap. It looks like it was made from a shiny blue material. And there's a patch on the front of it that says 1980 Lake Placid and oh! Is that a raccoon? It kind of reminds me of Cardinal, the raccoon, one of the members of the Chapman crew. My boy!
Nice work, Zopher. So let's start with your first observation. You said that the object looks like a hat, and you're correct. So this is a hat, and it was made from a material called nylon, which is waterproof. So the hat does have a brim, like you pointed out, and it also has these flaps on the side that would be used to cover the wearer's ears. Now, Zopher, do you think that this is a hat that you would have worn in the summer or the winter?
The winter. It looks way too warm to be worn in the summer.
You're exactly right, Zopher. So this is definitely a winter hat. Now let's use those other observations you made to try and determine where this hat would have been worn. You pointed out the fact that there's a patch on the front that says 1980 Lake Placid.
Yes, I did. Well, that was easy. This hat was worn in the 1980 in Lake Placid. All right. Next object.
Whoa, Zopher. Not yet. You're right. We've nailed down where and when this hat was worn, but now let's try to figure out why someone would wear this hat, and I think the raccoon on the front might help us. Zopher, can you think of any big events that involve rings, like the rings around a raccoon's eyes?
A wedding!
Well, yes, I guess I was thinking of a sporting event, specifically a sporting event that uses rings that look like this.
Those are the Olympic rings, like the Olympic Games.
Yes, the Olympic Games are held every 2 years and bring athletes from all over the world together to compete in winter and summer sports, depending on the year. Now, in 1980, the village of Lake Placid in New York hosted the Winter Olympics. Lake Placid is known for having a lot of snow and ice, and it can get very cold, so it was a great place to host the Winter Olympics. If someone were to attend the games, they would need to be dressed warmly, and that is where this hat comes in. So it is actually part of a uniform that was worn by Beverly Kerr, who volunteered at the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. So along with this hat, Beverly's volunteer uniform, including a coat, snow pants, and boots, all of which we have in our collection.
Wow.
So the uniforms were made out of nylon, which is waterproof, which is important if you're working in a cold, snowy environment. And the bright blue color was selected along with other colors of the rainbow to lift people's spirits and provide a sense of celebration and national pride.
Ah.
Now, Beverly was one of 6,700 volunteers at the 1980 Winter Olympics. They were nicknamed clones because when they stood together all wearing the same uniform, they just looked like copies of each other.
Okay.
Now, the volunteers, or clones, did many different jobs, including helping park cars, checking people's credentials, helping to score events, directing spectators, and more. Beverly here helped with the bobsled events. Now, the uniform also included patches on the hat and the coat. The patch on the coat has the emblem for the 1980 Winter Olympics, and the patch on the hat features the mascot of the games, Ronnie the raccoon.
Another mascot? Wow!
Yeah, Ronnie was picked as the mascot because raccoons live in the Adirondack Mountains, where Lake Placid is located. Now, the black and white mask or rings around Ronnie's eyes are similar to the sunglasses and hats worn by some of the competitors. And all 5 colors of the Olympic rings, red, green, blue, black, and yellow, can be found on Ronnie. And the name Ronnie was chosen by local school children, and it comes from the Mohawk word for raccoon. Now, the Mohawks are a Native American group that lived in the Lake Placid region long before Europeans did.
Ronnie seems like a very cool mascot. Maybe one day Catherine and I can take a trip up to Lake Placid and meet him.
Sounds like fun, Zopher. Ronnie is probably at the Lake Placid Olympic Museum, which is dedicated to telling the stories of the Olympic Games held in Lake Placid. And we'd like to thank Julia Herman and the Lake Placid Olympic Museum for the information they shared about the volunteer uniform, the 1980 Winter Olympics, and Ronnie the raccoon.
Maybe Ronnie and I could compete in the best museum mascot. I could take home the gold. The first mouse to do so.
We'd all be rooting for you, Zopher. But you do bring up an important topic, medals. Now, during the Winter Olympics, athletes compete to try and win medals. They compete in sports such as figure skating, downhill skiing, bobsledding, hockey, and more. Now, remember how I mentioned that during the 1980s there was a lot of tension between the US and the Soviet Union? Well, that tension spilled over into the Olympics as well. The United States and the Soviet Union were very competitive. Each country wanted to win more medals than the other at the Olympics. One sport where they competed against each other was men's hockey. Now, the American men's hockey team in 1980 was made up of college students and players from the minor leagues, and it was not expected that they would make it very far, let alone even win a medal. The Soviet team, on the other hand, was very good and had won the gold medal in men's hockey 4 years in a row. When the Americans and the Soviets played against each other in one of the final games, everyone thought the Soviets would win. However, in the final seconds of the game, the American team was able to score a goal and won the game.
USA! 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 Ah!
The game became known as the Miracle on Ice because many people thought it was a miracle that the American team won. Al Michaels, one of the game's announcers, helped give the game its nickname when he famously asked on air, "Do you believe in miracles?" The American team would go on to win the gold medal in men's hockey at the 1980 Olympics, and the Miracle on Ice is often considered one of the greatest moments in American sports history.
Wow, very cool. And to think it all happened not too far from here.
You're right, Zopher. Lake Placid is only about 2 hours or so away from Glens Falls, so people you know might have gone to the 1980 Winter Olympics as spectators. There's also a good chance that people you know might have watched the Miracle on Ice game on TV. Like we said, the 1980s weren't that long ago, so this is pretty recent history compared to many of the historical events and objects we share with you.
Maureen, are you ready to show us the next object?
Sure, Zopher, but our next object is pretty heavy, so we're going to bring the camera to it. All right, as you're looking at our second object, think about what you notice. Think about the object's size, shape, color, and the materials that it might be made from, and see if you can determine what this object is or what it was used for. If you'd like, pause the video and write down your thoughts. All right, Zopher, tell me what you notice.
That thing is huge. It's the size of a suitcase.
And it weighs about 30 pounds.
Oof, that's more than this mouse can carry. Whoa. I also see a screen and a keyboard. It reminds me of a computer. But that can't be. It's too big and the screen is really small for a computer.
Ah, but it is a computer, Zopher. This is the IBM Portable Personal Computer 5155.
This is a portable computer? Steve Jobs is rolling in his grave!
Yeah, it may not seem like it, but this computer was made to be taken places, like to work and then back home for you to use. For comparison, a laptop today weighs about 3 to 5 pounds.
Oh my.
And you can close a laptop and put it in your mouse bag with your cheese.
Now you can close this computer, Zopher. And the handle on top, hard to see, but it's back here, makes for easy carrying.
That's not what I meant. So, how does this computer work?
Well, it doesn't have a rechargeable battery the way that modern laptops do, but so you would need to plug this computer into a regular outlet to use it. And once you've done that and turned it on, you would need to insert a floppy disk with a program on it.
Oh.
So a floppy disk is a thin plastic disk coated with a magnetic material on which data for a computer can be stored. Now the program on this floppy disk tells the computer what to do.
Hey, that kind of reminds me of a save icon.
You're right, Zopher. The save icon on many computers is a small picture of a floppy disk. And that's because you could save information on this floppy disk the same way that you might save something to your Google Drive or to a USB drive. Now, the IBM Portable Personal Computer 5155 was released in February of 1984 and cost $4,225, or about $13,627 today. And that small screen that you pointed out, Zopher, it's only about 9 inches wide compared to a typical laptop screen, which is around 15 inches wide. It also has a keyboard, which folds down, and it has a slot, I believe it has 2 slots for floppy disks.
And what would you use the computer for? Solitaire?
This particular computer was owned by Kim Kelso. In 1984, Kim began working at a company called Travelers Insurance, which was located at 333 Glen Street, the large building that is directly across from the Chapman Museum. Insurance is protection against certain accidents that is provided by a company in return for payment or a fee. For example, you might pay insurance on your house in case it floods. If the house ever flooded, insurance money could cover the cost of the damage done by the flood. Now, Kim would sign this portable computer out in order to bring work home with her on the evenings or on the weekends. She primarily used the program Multimate. While this computer was considered new technology when Kim first started working at Travelers, technology moves fast, and eventually Travelers got rid of this style of computer, so Kim was able to bring it home permanently.
Now, this computer is a recent donation to the museum, coming in just a few months ago.
Cool.
Wow, it's fun to see how much has changed since the 1980s and how much it stayed the same. Well, girls, this has been a pretty rad episode, but I think I gotta get going. I want to keep practicing my moonwalk. See ya later!
Bye, Zopher.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode, and thank you, Maureen, for sharing 2 more objects from our collection here at the museum.
Oh, you're welcome.
And now that you've learned about some of the objects in the Chapman Museum's collection, we want you to create a piece of art that incorporates the objects we discussed today. You can draw a picture, you can write a story, you can come up with a song, a poem, or something else, and you can send your art to me at educator@chapmanmuseum.org along with your first name, and it just might be featured on our social media pages. Well, that is all for today. We'll be back next month with another episode. So until then, have a great day, keep on learning, and make sure to visit us here at the museum. We have tons of cool stuff.